Hello! Welcome to my guide on installing a new steering shaft in an '89 Dodge Ramcharger. I have this Ramcharger here and I like it quite a bit, and well, she needed a new steering shaft. Well, she didn't need a new steering shaft so much as a new steering shaft would have been nice. The old one, this piece was missing entirely. The high beam switch was missing. My high beams have been stuck on the entire time I've had the truck. This wiper switch in here, you can't see it, but there's a switch in there. Those are nearly impossible to find nowadays because no one makes them. So you may want to do the swap to get the early 90s column that has available multifunction switches still. You may do the swap to get the cruise control lever here. You may do the swap to go from tilt to non-tilt or non-tilt to tilt. You may do the swap to a manual or to an automatic transmission and get rid of or add this lever here. I don't know, but at any rate, you don't actually have to take the wheel off to tear into it. I just have the wheel off already, and I'm not bothering to put it back on just yet. First thing, you have to disconnect the wires. The wires for the steering column go into this. This one is the wiper switch. This one I'm not actually sure what it goes to, but you gotta disconnect it. This one I believe is the hazards, and this one in the back here is the turn signal switch. Each of those will only plug into the one that it goes to. There is another plug there for the high beam switch that has to be unplugged. There is another plug that goes into the dash, goes right there. This wire. That wire also has to be disconnected, and on the top there you can see, if I can work this in there, you can see, sorry folks for the motion sickness, just putting a motion sickness warning on this video. Alright, there you go. That looks like one long connector there. That's actually, focus will you? That's actually two connectors. The one on the back, or on the right, has to come out first, and then the one in front of it, or on the left, from your view, can come out. And all of these are just depress something or pull on something, and they will release. Once those are out, there's a bolt there and a bolt there that need to be loosened. I would not remove them yet, because they are what holds the column upright. And then you come around to under the hood, and there are 3 bolts, one here, one there, and one behind the brake booster. Right, if I can get the camera there. If I can get the camera to focus now. The camera's not going to focus. But at any rate, you can hopefully see the stud sticking out there. That one's actually really hard to get to. So I haven't gotten the nut back onto it yet, but it'll happen eventually. Those are all 1/2 inch. At least these 3 outside are. The ones inside are 7/16. And I recommend, for this one I recommend a socket and a ratchet and an extension for these 2, and for the third one back there I recommend a ratcheting wrench, and for the inside I recommend a ratcheting wrench or a very deep well socket if you have a very deep well 7/16 socket. Once these are all removed and everything is unplugged, you then care about the steering shaft. I have a Borgeson shaft in mine. I have another video up on that. And you care about the, if you have an automatic, the shift linkage there. Caution, because, well, I learned this the hard way today. Number one, that linkage is really hard to get off. The only way to do it's with a screwdriver, and you basically have to stand inside the engine bay to get the leverage required to pop it off. It'd be easier if you weren't in park, because it will move upward when in lower gear. If you put it into first, for example, it would be much easier to get out, because it would be in a more easily accessible position. Speaking of shifting, however, when you are detaching or reattaching that linkage, have your wheels chocked and your parking brake on. Because as I discovered the hard way today, you can shift the transmission without shifting the column, because the shift lock that prevents you from shifting when the key is not on is attached to the column and not to the transmission. It should have been obvious, but for some reason it didn't seem to hit me. So when you take that apart, have the wheels chocked, or else, like I was earlier today, you will wind up jamming your left foot under the left front tire, trying to hold the truck from rolling backwards, and yelling at passerby until eventually someone decides to stop and help you. If I was not in a parking lot right now and I were to and I lived alone, I unfortunately live in an apartment. If I lived in a normal house, like I hope to someday, and I were alone, I would just have been basically screwed and would have had to either let my truck roll into something or hope I could race to the brake pedal, or called the police on myself, or called a buddy and hoped that someone was available or something to get help to stop the truck. As it is, I'm on a hill, and it was really bad for it to shift out of park. So, word to the wise, or to the not so wise, like me, yeah, it's bad. Don't do that. Have it chocked. So, at any rate, once you get that out, you can pull out the column. Well, once you get that out, you can finish undoing those other two bolts on the inside, and then you can pull out your column. Be careful to, oh, I suppose there's one more thing that's quite important that I forgot to mention here. Just like in my previous video to remove the gauge cluster, there is, right here, this bracket that I forgot about. That holds the cable for the shift indicator. If you just rip the column out without disconnecting the shift indicator, it will break the shift indicator. Don't do that. Use a pair of pliers to neatly separate that cable from the column. Note where on the column this was, and then when you put your column back in, put it in the same hole, or a different hole if you're swapping columns and the shifter's bent differently. Whichever hole you need to put it in a hole. So, yeah. Then you do the exact same procedure in reverse order to put a new column in the truck, and that's swapping the steering column to an 80s Dodge truck. It's pretty simple. I did it in 10 minutes in a junkyard, and then walked out of the junkyard with a steering column over my shoulder, feeling like some kind of heavy weapons specialist in some, like, 90s buddy soldier movie. Like Armageddon. Did Armageddon have a dude who held a machine gun on his shoulder? I don't even know. But anyway, that guy, you know, the fat guy in the movie that's got, like, the real big gun or the rocket launcher he always has on his shoulder. That guy. Anyhow, you know what I'm talking about, hopefully. That's what you feel like, walking out with steering column on your shoulder. Oh, additionally, fun facts. The reason I disassembled this here, all the guides on the internet tell you that you cannot remove a key cylinder from a Dodge tilt column without turning the key. Well, I really don't want to take the turn signal switch out to do this, but I guess for the sake of argument, I will. Give me one moment to do so. Oh, geez, the video has been sideways for a while. That's unfortunate. I may have to edit this. Alrighty, so this is my old steering column. Don't need to have that on there. By the way, this is the wiper switch that's impossible to find. I bought the last one in the country. I'm saving this column just in case I need parts off it in the future. But anyway, so 3 locksmiths and a bunch of guys on Facebook told me that you cannot remove the key cylinder from a Dodge tilt steering column, specifically tilt. The non-tilt ones supposedly you can, but from a tilt Dodge steering column you cannot remove the key cylinder. This is my key. This is my spare key. By the way, the key for this is a CH153 Y153F, I believe. Or Y153 blank. Just so you know, when you're trying to get a copy made of this key, because lots of people don't know the blank, as I've also discovered. So, people say that you cannot take out this key cylinder without turning the cylinder. Now this is in the locked position. This is the key cylinder from the junkyard column. I cannot turn this. I don't own the key to this. I called the Chrysler dealer. They will not give me the code to have a new key made unless I can prove ownership. I can't prove ownership. This came out of a junkyard, so kind of stuck there. Well, you're not stuck, because also locksmiths said that this cannot be picked. They recommended that I drill this out, because I was never going to be able to disassemble the column without having a key and being able to turn the cylinder. Well, they're wrong. This right here, tiny screwdriver. This right here is the tab to release the cylinder. And real quick, I'm going to attempt to hold my phone with my chin while I wiggle this out. Okay, now that I have depressed the tab and gotten it underneath where it's supposed to be here, now I have to hold the column with my legs. It's out. There it goes. You do not need the key to remove a key cylinder from an 80s, late 80s, this would be like 88 to 90 only, I think, Dodge tilt steering column. You do not need the key. And just to prove there was no funny business, that I didn't edit this or anything, here we go in one take all together now. Here is my key. Doesn't go in that way. Well, of course. Now the key won't even go in it. The key will go in this if you do it the right direction. There we go. One take. Here we go. Key cylinder does, and it's really hard to do. I need a tripod. Key cylinder does not turn. So, if anyone ever says you need the key to remove key cylinder from an 80s Dodge steering column, unless you can't use a junkyard column unless you find the keys, nope, you don't. So there you go. There's my video on Dodge steering column replacement.